Good morning, everyone. I know it's crowded, I know it's hot, but this should be a short program. We wanted to have it here because this is where the unveiling will be. So it made much more sense to have it here. So welcome to Morgan State University on this very, very special occasion. And it's been a joy doing this. I told Linda it's been a labor of love. So we appreciate that you came out. Some of you came from distances in the rain. It just started raining a couple hours ago, so it wasn't supposed to rain. So bear with us, and the program should progress pretty quickly. And then afterward, we do have a reception. So we'll make it worth your while for standing and with dripping umbrellas, et cetera. So I am going to bring up the president of the university for his welcome, Dr. David Wilson.
Thank you. Good morning. Before I make my official remarks, I want to recognize President Emeritus and former President Earl Richardson, who is in the audience. And so please join me in recognizing Earl. I want to really welcome everyone to this very, very special day here at Morgan State University. This is a day here where we gather to pay special recognition to an alumnus who came through the doors of this institution, who took advantage of everything that Morgan had to offer him, and then he took that and it propelled him forward onto the world stage where he competed with the very best in the nation, and he won. You know, people often ask me, Mr. President, what's in a name? And I often remark, everything. I believe that if one dropped in from outer space and was trying to find out what a university really stood for, and they didn't know anything about the institution, I think the first thing that the person should do is to go to the list of individuals first that the institution has given honorary degrees to. I think the person should pay attention to the names on buildings that the institution has named those buildings for, the names on the schools, the names on the colleges, the names on the programs within the institution, the names of endowed chairs. And if one would then pay attention to those names, one would get a great sense of what that institution stood for, of what those values are at that place. And so this morning, in H Gilliam Jr., Morgan State University is saying today that we value excellence, we value leadership, we value integrity, we value a liberal arts education that imbues students with critical thinking skills and understanding and appreciation of all cultures, and that we value philanthropy. We are truly thrilled to be standing here this morning to officially name the College of Liberal Arts here at Morgan, the H Gilliam Jr. College of Liberal Arts. And we are doing this at an incredible period in the history of Morgan State University as we proudly celebrate our sesquicentennial, 150 years. And so as I bring my remarks to a close, I want to make a connection between a visionary whose vision actually gave rise to this institution and H Gilliam Jr. And so I want to invoke the name that I'm sure 99% of the people in this room have never heard, Reverend Samuel Green. Samuel Green was a slave. born in Dorchester County, Maryland. And he was born during a time when it was illegal for slaves to read and write. And Samuel Green's master saw that he had a lot of potential and basically offered him an opportunity to become literate. And he did. But there was a law which said that if any slave was caught in possession of reading materials, that they could be punished. And Samuel Green was caught in possession of a book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. And he was sentenced in a Baltimore penitentiary to 10 years, and he served 5 years for being in possession of a book. So when Samuel Green got out of prison right before the Civil War ended, he came to Baltimore City and had a discussion with those Methodist ministers and said, you know, we need to be thinking about establishing an institute that would be about the business of educating individuals who are about to be, if you will, coming out of slavery. And that's how we got the Centenary Biblical Institute in 1867, because of that vision. I invoke that story today because if Samuel Green were here today, I think he would say, wow, I was caught reading a book. And look at what that led to. It led to an individual, H Gilliam Jr., who would come to this place called Morgan State College, majoring in English in this building, who would read numerous books, and then who would go on to set a brilliant example for this nation. Samuel Green's vision, if you will, was realized in H Gilliam Jr.'s tenure here at Morgan and what he has done with that and what he did with that after leaving this institution. Great day for Morgan. To the Gilliam family, thank you for all of your investments in Morgan State University and for allowing us to honor your brother, your father, your ex-husband, all of the cousins who made all of this today possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we will have our Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost bring remarks about the occasion, Dr. Gloria Gibson.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here today on this very, very special day. Today we gather on the occasion of the naming of the James H. Gilliam Jr. College of Liberal Arts. First, I'd like to thank the Gilliam family for their continuous and generous support of Morgan State University. We greatly, greatly appreciate that. And I extend that appreciation on behalf of our faculty, our staff, especially our students and our administrators. So thank you all very much. As the Chief Academic Officer, this is an exhilarating day because we celebrate James H. Gilliam's legacy, and in so doing, we also celebrate the liberal arts. The liberal arts provide the very foundation for what it means to be educated. Through the liberal arts, our students learn the importance of critical thinking, communication, history, literature, the arts, and much, much more. The naming of the college is significant for many reasons. Students, faculty, and staff will understand the legacy of James Gilliam Jr. and will also understand the promise of the future. It is the future that we look to today to promote academic excellence and an attitude of service. I would like to leave you with one of my favorite poems, because we can't celebrate the liberal arts without having some literature or poetry or history. And I think this is probably one of your favorite poems as well, because it expresses the hope, the love, the pride that we have in our past and also in our future. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I have oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Do you want to see me broken, bowed down, and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. And today, as we celebrate this occasion and this tremendous gift, Morgan State University rises. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. And now we will have remarks from our Board of Regents, and representing the Board of Regents is its Vice Chair, Reverend Dr. Francis Draper.
Good morning. It's almost not fair. Cheryl promised you that it would be short, and then they put a preacher on the program. But I stand to bring you greetings this morning. I don't know if our chair has arrived. Is he come from behind the pole there? On behalf of our chair, the Honorable Kwesi Mfume, and other members of the Board of Regents, as I call your name, won't you please stand? I would like to recognize Regent Penelope Taylor, our student regent, Matthew Reeds, Regent Winston Wilkerson, Regent Linda Gilliam, who also serves as our chair of our Academic Affairs Committee, and former long-serving Board of Regents member Frank Edmonds. And so I stand on behalf of the regents who are here and those who could not be here this morning. And I do think I'll take a text just for a moment, if you'll allow me. But Luke 12:48 says, "To whom much is given, much is required." And Jim Gilliam knew from a young age that he had been given much, for the Gilliam family is well known here in Baltimore. But he never wore it in a way that was flashy or, look at me, but he was always giving. And I'm sure that many of you in this room, like me, how many of you have a Jim Gilliam story? So any of you could be here, and we called him Jimmy. So here's my Jim Gilliam story, and then I will close my remarks. But when I was a senior in high school, and I was part of this debutante ball thing that they used to do, I had no escort and no date. So this was at the time the family still thought they could arrange things. So they arranged a date for me to the cotillion. And it was a young man who I really didn't know well because he was a couple years older than I. And I didn't know him well, and his name was Jimmy Gilliam. And he agreed, sight unseen, I think, to escort me to the debutante ball. He was a perfect gentleman, on time, with a corsage. We went to the affair. We did whatever we were supposed to do there. He brought me right back home, said, "Nice to meet you." I said, "Thank you so much for escorting me." And I really didn't see him again until we came to Morgan's campus. But he was always polite, always passionate, always purposeful about whatever it was that he was doing. And so how fitting it is today for the College of Liberal Arts here at his alma mater, Morgan State University, to be named for James Gilliam Jr. And so we celebrate his legacy, we celebrate his life, we celebrate his love, and we celebrate his laugh and his ready smile. And so to the family, thank you so much. So on behalf of the Board of Regents, we are just grateful that he traversed this campus and grateful that still his legacy goes on. For you too, understand to whom much is given, much is required.
Thank you, Regent Draper. And now we will have remarks from the Dean of this James H. Gilliam Jr. College of Liberal Arts, Dr. Mbare Ngom.
Well, good morning. And welcome to our beautiful campus. I always say out there, we have the most beautiful campus in this nation and beyond this nation. So welcome. And the College of Liberal Arts, the James H. Gilliam College of Liberal Arts, is, with the permission of the deans who are present here, is the academic centerpiece of this university, of this august institution. And we have grown since Reverend Green had that vision, because now we offer 11 undergraduate degree programs, 21 single discipline minors, 6 interdisciplinary minors, 9 master's degree, and 3 PhD programs. We have grown, we have grown. So we are the academic unit where the practice of excellence is a commonplace. In fact, it is our modus vivendi. we train globally competent, professional, and compassionate citizens so that they go out there, can get a job anywhere in the world. The world is their job market. So it is a great honor for us, students, faculty, and staff to be here on this special occasion. Mr. James H. Gilliam Jr. was a remarkable individual who remained committed to the well-being and academic success of students at Morgan State University, and especially in the now James H. Gilliam College of Liberal Arts. And not only that, but Mr. Gilliam was an English major who walked through these hallways and halls, of the temple of knowledge that is Holmes Hall, because we are the centerpiece of this university, right? So today, we have the privilege of being witness to one of the College of Liberal Arts' finest hour, because it is a significant moment in our history as we celebrate Morgan's sesquicentennial anniversary. So on behalf of the College of Liberal Arts, I wish to express our gratitude beyond measure to the Gilliam family for being so good to this college and to Morgan State University. We do appreciate your generosity and constant support. This college will bear the James H. Gilliam name with great pride, dignity, and honor. Be blessed, and thank you very much. And since we speak languages in liberal arts, we say merci, obrigado, jërëjëf, asante, and dankeschön. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Ngom. And now I want to bring up a person who is not a stranger to anyone who attended Morgan, who comes here, or who comes here frequently, and that is one of Jim's previous professors, who's very proud of him, and that is our own Dr. Ruth T Chevy.
This microphone was right for Professor Mbara. And not right for me, thank you. Good morning, my beloved Morgan family. You're my family, you know that. And I count it not only as an honor, but a blessing to have just a brief moment, Cheryl says a brief moment, to speak with you about my former student, Jim Gilliam. I chaired the department for a good bit of his time here and started the humanities program. Friends, when they asked Pericles to speak over the Athenian fallen dead, he was a little bit apprehensive because he said the fame of these men, the fame of somebody like Jim Gilliam, shouldn't be imperiled by the good speech or the lack of it of a single person. And then he said, but the love of honor is forever new. So that I will go on to recognize this person, James Gilliam, whom I knew in my English classes. And I think you'll recognize that Jim Gilliam. Contrary to Mark Antony's words that the good that men do is buried with them, interred within their bones. Contrary to that, today we're all gathered to honor, to celebrate James H. Gilliam, the new college of James H. Gilliam College of Liberal Arts, so that that will not be the case. How could we have known then in these halls that James Gilliam, who sat so quietly and so attentively, and when he spoke so strongly and convincingly, and with such, I think the word for Jim is gravitas, with such gravitas, who knew that he would become a world leader, which is what he became. his legacy, well, he's a legacy Morgan student. His dad finished Morgan too, you know. Good Kappa man. Kappa prevailed in my household too. All of those things. But he, and his wife Linda, who shared his vision to help African American youth. You know, when you decide to make a donation that large, you don't decide it alone. Your wife comes in on that decision too. Linda. Well, it was a gift that enabled the expansion of the arts at Morgan, dear to my heart, as not only English department chair, but originator of the humanities program here, from which all of our students benefited. Turhan Robinson is here. He's a distinguished lawyer, one of Jim's friends. And in reading about Jim again, I read that he wrote that Jim always made time for others. Turhan is in the audience here. Always made time for others. And Cheryl Hitchcock, who conducted Jim on the tour of the campus before the gift, before he made the gift, marveled. She wrote that it was not just their gift that was important, though that was certainly a major boost, she wrote, but that what was important was what it said about the Gilliam's confidence in Morgan, in its direction, and in its leadership. Friends, at Jim's service, the Morgan choir sang Balm in Gilead, as no other choir can sing it, you know. Sang Balm in Gilead. But what an appropriate hymn for a man who spread healing in so many places. That healing balm that came from those trees in Gilead, Jim spread metaphorically wherever he went, so that was an appropriate hymn. This naming reminds us that contrary to Mark Antony's prediction, James's good will not be buried with him, but remembered in this naming of the Gilliam College of Liberal Arts. It's not just that the Gilliams have given an extraordinary gift, though that can't be underestimated. It's not just that James Gilliam left these portals and soared to the top of the business world, acting as trustee to Fortune 500 companies, as university trustee, as a top aide to Governor DuPont of Delaware, and his sister continues that tradition as Secretary of Labor in Delaware, blazed a kind of path for her, I think she'll admit. Though he did. But it is that he served as a role model, not just to African American men, though that was important, but to the world, a role model to the world. James H. Gilliam, lifted by the discipline and love gained at his parents' knees, and I knew them well, and reinforced and absorbed here in the halls of Morgan State University. He spoke of the benefits that he gained here, that he soared like a meteor into the universe. He's remembered in this naming and by all who in the future will bask in the light of his luminous passing. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you, Dr. Chevy. Now we're moving along to some other people who have personal memories of Jim. Jim was a member of the class of 1967, which is our anniversary class. Is anybody here? So celebrating his 50-year, the 50-year anniversary of the class in this 150th year of the university, which is very unique. And they have chosen as a spokesperson for their class someone who knew Jim well, someone who himself has gone on to great fame, and that's Mr. Willie Lanier, president of the Lanier Group, and a member of the class of 1967.
Good morning. Thank you, Cheryl. Dr. Wilson, Linda, assembled guests. It gives me a great honor to have been asked to speak at this naming ceremony for James H. Gilliam Jr. He and I arrived here 54 years ago. And 54 years ago, part of my path obviously was athletics. His was business continuing forward. But mine was also business, so we were in the same classes together. And we had a chance to get to know one another from these hollowed walls. We had a chance to see a young man from Baltimore who wondered about his future. I happened to have been from Richmond, the same kind of thought. But what we understood was that what this university was going to give us was going to allow us to compete anywhere at any time. Mine was a tad more noted because of television and sport. I kept track of his from a distance. And it was with great joy that whatever I saw him continuing to do and continuing to grow was fascinating. I think at times those who might have been in sport get a outsized part of the acknowledgement only because that's the way the media tends to do things. But when Jim gave his gift to this university, I was more than pleased and proud and honored to realize that we came from the same beginning, that he was able to take his life from the same place, same teachers, same professors, same attitude, same discipline, same belief, and compete at a level with anybody who was out there. The thing that came from this university meant that all of us, whoever was a part of this place, knew you could compete with anybody based on the degree that you gain. All rights and privileges thereto appertaining. I think those are the most important words you can ever have spoken in your behalf, because that means you're about to accept a diploma. That means you're about to have the base from which you can compete. So this morning has been a great joy for me to have a chance to speak for that man. And the honor that I am sharing with you that I felt when he made his gift to this university, and whatever I have done and I will continue to do will be because of him. And I acknowledge that, I acknowledge you, and thank you for this university's naming of this college in his name. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. And in the same vein, we will now bring up someone who was a dear friend of Jim's. And it says John Oliver, but it's Jakey Oliver. And chairman, publisher, and CEO of the African American newspapers.
It's great to be here. It's a special occasion for Morgan. It's a special occasion for me. As many of you in the room know, I knew Jim. I guess I first met him in 1947. He lived about 4 houses down from where I lived on Madison Avenue. And we ended up in 1950 in the same kindergarten. And at that point, it became very clear that Jimmy was special in many very, very clear ways. As young kids, kindergarten was a place for boys to always wrestle, fight, and just have a good time, things that boys do in kindergarten. Jimmy was always off to the side watching, and he was always sort of giving a little advice. Watch out, he's going to hit you from back. And after a point, it became very clear that, this is a guy I need to know. And we became very, very close almost instantly. But there is a series of traits that Jimmy exhibited that I think are very, very reflective of why I think it's a good choice to have the College of Liberal Arts named after this gentleman. He was a critical thinker. He was able to analyze, and he had the style enough to carry the objective and strategy through. It was a wonder to watch Jim work. It was a privilege in many respects for me. Not only were we classmates, but back in the 50s and the 60s, as Baltimore was evolving out of Jim Crow, I found myself as classmates with Jim, not only in junior high school, but in high school. But it was in high school where things started to change. At City College, the black students decided that it was about time that we had a black student government leader. And it was no surprise that that choice was Jim Gilliam, because he was able to talk, he was able to smooth his way across, regardless of what the ethnicity boundaries were at that time, and there were many of them in 1962, but he was able to impress the entire student body that it was about time to have a black student government leader, and it was Jim Gilliam, and we were very, very proud. And it made the news. City College elected its first black student government officer. And it was a sign throughout Baltimore that blacks were about to step out and do things that Jim Crow had precluded us from doing up to that point. Jim did a lot of things that broke the barriers, which I think were very good. Not only good for black folks, but I also think it was reflective of what it was such a good idea to have this school named after him, because I think the traits that a graduate of the liberal arts course must have is critical thought and a respect for education and a style, which Jimmy had lots and lots of that. I was also Jimmy's roommate in law school, so we have a continuous thread. And it was at Columbia in 1969 and 70 that we were still breaking barriers. Jimmy impressed so many people, and he was able to, when he got the offer for a summer job, well, he was one of the first to get an offer at Paul Weiss upon graduation. Paul Weiss is a very big deal. It's a big deal now. It was an extremely big deal then. We all stood up for Jimmy on that because he basically, once again, showed us that we can do it, and he was the one who broke the barrier. Everybody respected Jim in his law school class so much so that when he did graduate, they gave him a gray flannel dashiki as a representation of not only we appreciate what you've done, but don't stop, brother, because we need you continuously. Jimmy went on to break through many barriers in the corporate world, but his leadership, my personal involvement with Jimmy, exposed me to the leadership not only in the world of corporate law, but when he moved back to Wilmington, he continued to break the barriers and represent what black leadership can be and should be. Again, this is perfect because the College of Liberal Arts, named after James H. Gilliam Jr., couldn't have a better name, but more importantly, it has the personification of a person who everyone who's in this institution ought to continuously strive for. So once again, I thank you for the privilege of at least talking small bits about what Jim Gilliam meant to me, but also what I think Jim Gilliam means to Morgan, and it's naming him, naming this institution's college after him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jake. And now we will have the family, to hear from the family, and representing the family is, of course, Jim's sister, Dr. Patrice Gilliam Johnson, who is also a Morgan alum, and she is the Secretary of Labor of the state of Delaware and president of the Gilliam Foundation.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the family, I come to say thank you to Dr. Wilson, to the Board of Regents, and to the Morgan family. And we really do believe Morgan is our family. I was awakened, I guess, about 5:45 this morning, and I kind of was saying, why can't I go back to sleep? And actually, as I think about it, you know, I every now and then feel like I have these little conversations with my parents, and I think my brother was tapping me on my shoulder this morning to try to kind of say, here's some messages I think I'd like for you to drop on to everyone. Jim had a lot of loves. He loved his family. He loved good food. He loved a good bottle of wine. He loved music, and he loved Morgan. And he loved Morgan not just because it was a tradition. You know, as everyone's mentioned, my father was a Morgan graduate. My brother was, I am. And so we had a love fest for Morgan going on in our family. But it wasn't just about tradition. It was really about the fact that Morgan had a way of transforming those people that walked in the door. Just very average people walked in the door of Morgan and were transformed. And many people who were Morgan graduates are sitting here. People who were part of that transformation process, I think would agree that there's something that happens when you walk through these doors that can't be repeated in very many places. And I had the opportunity and firsthand experience of watching those transformations take place in my household. And what we know is that when they get transformed here, people leave here to be significant members and transformers themselves and leaders of the community and of the country and of the state. And I believe that my brother was one of those. And I see many of you sitting in the audience who are other examples of that transformation process. And so it's bittersweet that we're here today and that my brother couldn't see this. And it's really just kind of, you're right, Jake, it's so appropriate for this building to be named after him. He and I used to talk about, well, you know, what are you gonna major in? And he was an English major, and I decided to be a psych major. And he looked at me and said, you know, that's a little crazy, but, you know, okay. But he oftentimes talked about, you know, the Morgan experience and walking through Holmes Hall and Dr. Jaffe, and I'm so glad you're a part of this today. And just kind of, the reason I came behind him, and he'll kill me if I say this, but I was 10 years younger than he. But just the stories that he could tell, my coming up on the campus when he was here, and pledging Kappa and being on the campus to see the sororities and the fraternities, and hearing about all of the things that he learned. And yes, he actually came back and would use me as his guinea pig to repeat different poems and things like that, and tell me his take on what those poems were. But it is so appropriate for this building to be named after him, and I'm still kind of getting used to hearing it being called the James H. Gilliam College of Liberal Arts. But boy, does that sound good. I want to thank Cheryl. Cheryl has really been adamant in terms of working with our family and making sure that, you know, a lot of these things happened, and I just really appreciate your efforts in that regard. And just know that his spirit here is here now. He's smiling. I said to Dr. Wilson that he's somewhere smiling right now and doing that jig that he did. And, you know, just happy. And our hearts are full. Our hearts are happy. We're so pleased to have so many of you here with us today. And just know that we're full, but full of gratitude and full of happiness at this particular point in time. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Morgan, for continuing to open your arms to us. When I say that Morgan is family to us. So thank you.
Thank you. And I know I don't know all the family, but I'd like to at least recognize the family that I do know that's here. And of course, you've got Patrice, and you've got Linda Gilliam, and and Alexis, who is the daughter, and who else should I? I'm sorry. This is Morgan. Her name is actually Morgan. This is the daughter. And who else do I need? Anybody else? Patty? Cousins, friends, yeah. But thank you all. We really appreciate your coming to this. So now we're getting to the part that everyone's waiting for. But first, I'd like to say I really appreciate the patience that you all are exhibiting by standing through this. But this is a historic old building, and we converted it to make it what we needed today. So, Dr. Wilson, I'll turn this over to you.
Before we actually do the unveiling, let me just say a few things that I want to bring forward, the chairman of our board. There are some people that you read about, and you wish that you had had an opportunity to get to know them. And I never personally met Jim, but when I arrived here at Morgan, I'm always noticing what I said. The names on the buildings and the names on the rooms. And so I saw the name on the Murphy Auditorium, and I was really struck by what a beautiful facility it was. So who are these names? And so Cheryl Hitchcock, gave me a stack of stuff to read. And as I read everything that was put before me, I just could not believe how much I was smiling. Because everything you've heard today about Jim Gilliam was what I took from what I was reading. Here was a man who was so self-effacing. That's what I took from that. That despite all of the things that he had achieved, and the wealth that he had accumulated, and the gift that he gave to Morgan, he said, I don't want my name on it. I want to honor my parents. And that struck a chord with me. And so as we walked this campus, I said, there is absolutely no way that a person like Jim Gilliam should not be in front of all of the students at this institution today and those that are coming later. A person that has exhibited all the things that you have heard. And then, Patrice, to be in the company today, I just want to make sure that individuals are taking note of this. And when you start down this path, it's dangerous, but I have to say this. Willie Lanier, we are in the company of people like Jim who took the value of Morgan State University seriously. Excellence. So yeah, you have Willie Lanier, NFL Hall of Famer, the first black to play middle linebacker in the NFL. He played it at a level of excellence. And during his 10-year tenure with the Kansas City Chiefs, Willie's going to correct me if I get this wrong, and I might, accumulated a total of about 7 penalties. It was 5. That's excellence, ladies and gentlemen, right? So now you can imagine if he and Jim are friends, they're keeping each other honest, right? Then there's Carl Turnipseed, the highest ranking black in the Federal Reserve System in this country. Retired as executive vice president. And he also came right through the doors. All of them were here at the same time, taking the value of Morgan to a level of excellence. And then I see Judge Bell hiding over there, right? The retired Chief Justice here in Maryland, excellence. And so just imagine what that must have been like here on the campus during this period with just these 4 people I pointed out, let alone the other 600 or 700 of them in that class, right? I just want us to take note of that because Jim is a very, very special alum of this institution. and we really could not be more thrilled than to have this college bear his name going forward. And so with that said, I want to bring forward the chairman of our board to make some concluding remarks, and then we'll move to the official unveiling. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Kwesi Mfume.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much in the back and on the sides for that standing ovation. I really, really, really appreciate it. It's a distinguished group here, and all of you are equally as distinguished. I was supposed to have been in Los Angeles today, but here I am. So I couldn't not be here knowing that this was taking place. And I'll just say a couple of things, because everything that could be said has been said. It's just not everybody has said it. So I'm going to add my 2 cents, and I will be brief no matter how long it takes. Frank, somebody just got that in the back there, okay? Jim and I were here at 2 separate times. I always tell people he's a little older than me. In fact, I got here and dinosaurs were roaming the earth, but when Jim got here, God had just separated day and night. So we got to know each other in a great way through the Board of Regents, and I'm so glad that so many people are here. I mean, if anybody embodies the term Morgan man, it's Jimmy Gilliam. And you've heard stories here that I couldn't replicate, duplicate, or even steal. They're honest, they come from the heart, they come from people who knew, loved, and worked with Jim. My thanks to you, Linda, to his daughters, to the foundation, to his family, for all of you for allowing us to do this. And Bernie Hollis, if you allow me a moment of redundancy for just a moment, this is significant. This is like a triad. You know, Frank, I guess about 2 months ago, we had a special sesquicentennial celebration for Verda Welcome, the first African-American woman ever elected to the state Senate here in Maryland, of whom that bridge is named after, and that's why we have university status, because of her. A month after that, we celebrated here, through Dr. Wilson's work and the work of his administration and everyone else, the life and the works of Enola P. McMillan, who was the first woman president of the NAACP, and the only one, and the first woman chair of the Board of Regents, and the only one. A significant set of accomplishments and stories, so how fitting is it but to do this on this day for our native son, for a true Morgan man who was West Baltimore, Frank. That's just an inside joke. Jimmy Gilliam, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
And so now we're going to get to the unveiling, and so we're going to, Cheryl, ask the family to stand, if you will, and if the family would like to stand facing the unveiling. And so we'll have two unveiling. The first would be the actual name, and then the second that some of you can see and others cannot is a portrait that was donated to the university by the Gilliam Foundation. And so I'm going to actually count, and we'll do this at the count of, once the family is situated here, and Cheryl, I'll go over and join the family, and so if you can count down to 5 for us, and then we'll do the unveiling on 5. So just a minute.
Okay, you there? Okay. He wants me to.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's tape.
And then we'll move over to the visual portrait.
Kim,